All right, so we're out here at Crooked Creek Hops today. Right now, they're mowing the cover crop, so that way they can incorporate that into the ground. They got a couple more rows to do. We'll be showing that next. But yeah, the mixture of cover crop they've got is pretty cool. They've got some mustard, some hairy vetch. It's real thick and viney in here. Some winter peas, a little bit of clover, and some triticale. And basically, we're just using a flail mower, cut it all up, chops it up. Smells nice and sweet, just like fresh mowed hay almost. Yeah, and then this is going to go into the soil or get incorporated into the soil, which is going to help out with soil moisture retention, organic matter, give some nitrogen to the soil as well. Instead of using synthetic fertilizers or more synthetic fertilizers, helps to incorporate or to offset some of those, as well as this is here to offset some CO2 emissions and be a little bit more cognitive of the surrounding areas and everything else. The flowers, we had a great spring this year, so it actually helped bring in some of the honeybees and other bees early on, the great big bumblebees even. So that helped out with beneficial insects. So they're really drawn to the purple and the yellow flowers on some of these plants. So basically we let it grow, get it to a certain point where it's a little too much for the plants or the hop plants itself, and we mow it and then we incorporate it in. We'll leave the ground pretty bare, similar to what's off to the my left over here in this other row, for 2-3 weeks, and then we'll prep that to put the next cover crop in for the summer. Usually something that grows a little lower, again something that's got really nice flowering and everything for those beneficial insects to cut down, and hopefully some insecticides later on in the year. So the next step of the process is incorporating the cover crop. What we're actually doing this year is we have some rocks in this field, so we're actually using the stone crusher that we're using behind here, and that's going to take the cover crop that we've cut, and it's going to basically incorporate it. But it's also kind of prepping the soil too for the seed bed, we'll say, to hill up and for the next cover crop. But then the bigger stones that are underneath that we're trying to chew up a little bit so it doesn't beat up equipment is what we're using for that. Normally we would either use a disc or a chisel plow and then a cultivator, which we're going to be using a cultivator on this afterwards. So that's the normal step of the process. And like I said, we go from this back to this in about 3 or 4 weeks. So after we get done with the rock crusher, and that's what we're doing this year, normally it'd be using a chisel plow. We go through with a cultivator. This helps smooth the drive rows out, helps out with the seed bed, but also make everything nice and smooth, so that way when we go through the hill, the hills are nice and even, they're neat looking, and we're not causing any troubles of maybe hitting a plant or whatnot. So that's the next step of the process. When we get done with this, we'll start hilling. So the next step of the process, after we get the seed bed loosened up and smoothed out, we go through and hill. Hilling is an essential part to make sure that we keep our rows nice and clean. We start them clean. We put the fresh soil on there that keeps the weeds away. It also strengthens up the base of the plant, so that way later on when these are nice and heavy and the wind's whipping, it's not going to allow them to get pulled out or anything like that and break off right before harvest. It's also going to give the fresh nutrients basically to the bottom of that plant base, and where the bottom of this bottom of the bines will actually turn into more of a rut, and the feeder roots can go out, and it gives them fresh dirt and fresh soil and the nutrients from that soil to feed off from. Lastly, it helps out with the moisture retention as well, right? So the crown being right there where we cut earlier in the spring, now it's going to be built up, so that way this hot sun's beating down on it, it's not going to dry out the crown basically, and that way these will stay healthy throughout the entire year.